We're ready to start.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the first Community Pool Project Ad Hoc Committee meeting being held on July 20th, 2021. I will now call the meeting to order. Please note that this meeting is being attended by City Council and City staff who have been appointed to the Community Pool Project Ad Hoc Committee and will be recorded by a Zoom teleconference. Thank you for your patience as we continue to navigate city business through this meeting process. Since this is our first meeting, I would be remiss if I did not introduce our committee members. First, we have the council committee members, Mayor Joe Kalmick and Mayor Pro Tem Mike Barapapa. We also have city staff committee members. I'm Patrick Gallegos, the assistant city manager. We have also the finance director, Kelly Telford, Joe Bailey, the marine safety chief, Iris Lee, the city engineer / deputy director of public works, and Jennifer Robles, management analyst for the city manager's office. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the council cannot discuss or take action on any item not on the agenda unless authorized by law. No other business shall be considered. All email comments to the city clerk received before the start of the meeting were distributed to the city council and made available to the public on the city's website. Email comments received after the start of the meeting will be forwarded to the city council after the meeting has transpired. We have not received any comments, any public comments for this meeting. Okay, so today's meeting is really to get our bearings, to provide a brief history of the pool project, to learn more about potential funding opportunities, to answer any questions you may have, and to talk about next steps. So let's start. So before my tenure here in Seal Beach in 2008, the city performed a feasibility study. Next slide, please. Regarding the possible renovation or replacement of the current pool at McGaw Elementary. The study weighed the pros and cons of repairing and renovating the existing pool versus replacing the pool entirely. In the end, the study concluded that the best recommendation would be to demolish the existing pool and replace it with a new one. The study also recommended a number of remedies that would need to take place in order to build a new pool at this site, especially to meet state health and safety codes. The study also maintained that it was not uncommon to see major renovations of these types of facilities when the facility requirements have changed very little from the time of the original construction, which is to essentially say that we have an old pool that needs a lot of TLC. It was later learned that in order to construct a new pool that would meet all of the new health and safety code requirements, the city would need to expand the footprint of the pool. And this is kind of where the project hit its first speed bumps. Staff and consultants asserted that in order to gain the space needed to build a new pool, we would need to take down one or more of the tennis courts and or multiple parking spaces at the school site. It is my understanding, at least at that time, that this was not a viable option from the perspective of the school. Since parking was already a challenge and reducing the amount of spaces would make it even more difficult for their staff and visitors, it was definitely a problem for them. In addition, the tennis playing part of the community was not thrilled about losing tennis courts, and they made their voices heard. As such, the city began to look at other potential locations, but there were few to be had since Seal Beach is nearly built out, and other locations presented their own challenges that would be difficult to overcome. More recently, the city began to have discussions with representatives at the Naval Weapons Station, and after a few years of red tape and discussions, the Navy was amenable to building a pool on their base. While city staff worked with the Navy on the details, we also began to host town hall meetings to hear from members of the public. The town halls were well attended, especially from members of the swim community, and we were able to gain a better understanding of the desires of those who attended. On a side note, it was mentioned in the original 2008 feasibility study to be aware that a small segment of the community would attend these meetings and become very passionate about the particular group's needs and wants. The study further stated that it had seen occasions where competitive swimming groups would attend the meeting and attempt to drive the project to accommodate their purpose, and thus the larger segment of the community. The silent majority who does not necessarily attend those meetings would provide input for the project, but eventually become the largest segment of the facility users. I mentioned this because the pool that was designed included many of the elements provided by the public which to no one's surprise drove up the cost of the project at the base anywhere from 15 to 20 million plus, depending on who you ask. If I may, right now I'm going to ask Iris Lee, the city engineer and deputy director of public works, to briefly talk about the tentative design at the Navy site. Iris?
Manager Gallegos mentioned that we did a pretty public outreach campaign in 2014, and based on the community feedback.
I'm sorry,
I
Iris.
can't hear. I can't hear
I
him,
can't hear
Patrick.
Is this any better? Can you hear me
No,
now?
we still can't hear you.
You're coming in really low, Iris.
How about now? Is this any better?
That is a lot better. Thank you.
Okay, I will sit really still this way. Thank you. Based on the feedback during the 2014 campaign, a vacant parcel located at the Seal Beach Naval Weapons Station was selected. The location is shown on the picture to the top right-hand corner. This is approximately a 4-acre parcel on the easterly side of Seal Beach Boulevard at Adolfo Lopez. And it accommodates the amenities that were heard from the public, which includes the 50-meter long course pool, as you see on the top center picture. And a site plan is provided on the bottom center that also shows a splash pad that the community desired, a multi-purpose community room, a single-story administrative support building, locker room, showers, and associated amenities, bleacher seating for competitive swim watching, on-site parking to code, open space and picnic areas, such as the green space that's shown on the bottom left side towards on the option 1 picture. This project, as proposed and as shown on the slide, is approximately $23 million. It should be noted that this cost estimate was prepared about a year ago and is a one-time capital cost and does not include the yearly operation and maintenance cost. This concept and projected cost was presented to council on January 13th of 2020. And after some discussion, council directed staff to solicit for new community feedback to validate interest in moving the pool forward. Next slide, Jen. Thank you. So staff, as such, conducted 2 open house events in February of 2020, established a communication channel via Swim Seal Beach at sealbeachca.gov, and provided an update at the Parks and Recreation Commission meeting. Data showed roughly 165 people attending the outreach events, with 153 people expressing support for the new pool, citing common themes such as the age and condition of the existing pool at McGaw Elementary, importance of teaching children to how to swim, providing exercising opportunities and enhancing individual health, creating a sense of community, and providing a space for a swim team and swim clubs. However, there were general concerns about the overall cost of $23 million that was presented and the available funding for this project. This led to the possibility of seeing other smaller sites or other viable options with perhaps less amenities. The community did not appear to object to the existing McGaw Elementary location, as long as it is operationally enhanced and provides an updated pool feature. So I'm going to turn this back to Assistant City Manager Gallegos at this time.
Thank you so much, Iris. Okay, so while the Navy site is technically still in play, the cost of the project as it stands is financially prohibitive. Because of this financial impediment, as well as the city's need for a new pool, the council took 2 actions. First, the council created a swimming pool ad hoc committee, which we are now having, to ensure this project remained a high priority. And second, they tasked city staff with assessing the viability of a new pool at McGaw Elementary. While this may seem like deja vu, considering we started this back in 2008, it appears, at least after initial discussions with LAUSD staff, that there seems to be a willingness to revisit building a new pool at McGaw. And so we are focused on just that. So right now, I'd like Kelly Telford, the city's finance director, to talk about potential funding opportunities for a new pool. Kelly?
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Crystal clear.
Yes.
Okay. When I first came on board, just to give a little bit of financial context, once I understood what the option was at the Navy, I began running some cost analysis in addition to what had already been done. Analysis had been performed on the potential cost of a bond issuance at various levels. And while that information was helpful and it told us what our annual cost would be from a debt service perspective, what it did not include was the cost of operating the facility on an annual basis. When we ran those numbers, they were well over $1 million a year, which really made it cost prohibitive. The revenues derived from a facility of that size certainly would not cover those additional increase in costs, which is why I had recommended that we revisit the project overall to see if there was a more cost-effective option available. Does that help, Patrick?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that, Kelly. And finally, like I said, this is our first meeting, so it's what I said is that we were going to try to get our bearings, and we're doing just that. But I think right now is a good time to ask the council and Mayor Kalmek if you have any questions. And then once we've responded to them, we'll provide you with next steps. Do you have any questions or want to provide any input to us from your perspective at all, Mayor Kalmek or Councilmember Vera Papa?
I had a couple of questions, but Mike, if you want to go ahead first, that's fine.
No, go ahead, Joe.
Okay. Based on the fact that we finally, addition to Kelly's analysis, we finally got the lease figure from the Navy, which I understand was approaching $1 million a year, if that's correct. That why are we? I mean, other than for the review and to put us in a position now to move forward, it would seem to me that any further discussion about a pool on the Navy base would be moot and not necessary unless there's information that we've gotten since then that might, change my mind or your mind or the city's mind. And so if it's the case that the Navy pool is out of the question, and I'm hearing that the Los Alamitos Unified School District is interested in revisiting, then that's the direction that I would definitely see us going. But I would like to see us have a strong presentation in terms of having all of our ducks lined up, meaning the financials in terms of, from Kelly's standpoint, as to if we're going to obviously need to borrow money, how much we can and what that'll cost us and if that's advisable, and then how we're going to handle the operating costs and how are we going to be able to physically fit a swimming pool based on building code, State Board of Education requirements and so forth, how we're going to fit all that on the existing site. And I would like to see that done, before we go back to the public so that, we're not talking about the Navy base anymore. We're talking about just Los Al, and this is what it's going to cost. And this is a realistic estimation of what it's going to cost and move on from there. So that's, I guess there's a couple of questions hidden in there, but that's basically my comment.
Yeah, this is Mike, and I like that approach too. And I'd like to revisit the McGaw pool site, and I really don't want to at this time discuss consulting hirings and fees and studies and drawings and stuff like that. I'd like to kind of get to where we want to be so we can take the next step past that if we could. I mean, obviously we need that step when we all come to agreement, but without delaying it anymore, I'd like to just kind of come to some type of agreement and figure out where we want to go and move forward with that. And basically, dictate to the consultant, or if we even hire a consultant, what we want. Not, I think the feelers are out, the studies are out, and the planning is out. I think we need to know where we want to go after this process, so we can move forward and not keep deliberating about it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your comments. Those are all very valid points. And to go back to Mayor Kalmick, we're highly focused on the McGaw site. So that's why we put this ad hoc committee together to assess the McGaw site, and we're solely focused on that. We will be looking at the things that you brought up as far as borrowing funds that we have, operating costs, figuring out along with LAUSD what type of new pool can physically fit on that footprint. Those are some things that discussions that have happened in the past, but it looks like LAUSD is more willing to work with us on making those adjustments so that we could fit a pool at that site. And if that's the case, I think that we'll make some great progress on that. To Mike's comments, I agree that we have definitely studied this. We've consulted, we discussed ad nauseum, and now it's time to make some movement on this. I think a lot of it hinges on the cost of the project, as with any location. And so once we have all that information, as the mayor mentioned, we'll be able to provide you that information at the next ad hoc committee meeting, as well as a future council meeting, so that the public is aware, what steps we're taking, what the progress we're making, and also getting input from them as to what they might want. I know Chief Bailey, he manages the pool over at the McGaw site now, and has him and his team have worked diligently on keeping that decades-old pool together, and placed many Band-Aids on it, and I know they've personally worked on it themselves. So kudos to him and his team for continuing to do that. But we are at the point where it is at the end of life, and we have to make some decision as to whether we are going to invest in a new pool or exist without one. I think from what I hear from the council and the community is that we need a pool. And so we are going to make our best attempt at doing just that in a financially responsible way. So that's kind of an overview of where we're at. So in terms of next steps, unless do you guys have any other questions at all?
I was wondering, could we go back to the slide that showed the McGaw site? Would that be possible, or is that those? There we go. Yeah, that would be good. I just want to get a better idea of the physical positioning. Will we be looking in discussions with the district at a larger picture in a sense, meaning we know where the existing footprint of the pool is now. We know that it doesn't have dressing rooms. It doesn't have, other things that the district might want to see now. And we have a choice, of course, of the next battle of taking any of the tennis courts. But is there anything I'm just trying to look here, that's existing on the school property where, what do I want to say? If we were to move something, a building, or rebuild something else, that would be close, whether it's moving the handball courts or doing something that would be at our expense and part of the project, but might give us some additional room beyond which, we're looking at now, which is really the tennis courts are the only items that can provide, more space.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, and those things are, from our perspective, things that we might be able to do, unless it's cost prohibitive, but it's whether or not the school district is willing to make those adjustments as well. And those are the discussions that we'll be having with them, with our counterparts at LoSal. And so it would be kind of premature for me to say what they might want to do, what they might be open to doing. So at this time, I can't necessarily answer that question, but we will get to an answer once we have those discussions.
Okay, how much was the bloodletting when it came to taking one or two of the existing tennis courts?
Well, I think what you have in the tennis courts, look, you have folks that are active tennis players. I know Councilmember Vera Papa can attest to the folks in his neighborhood that like to use that court, and they are active in using that court. Yes, there was some initial pushback, I think, back in 2008 when these things were being considered, but those are things that we'll cross that path as we get closer to seeing what the district is open to.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's almost like, you know, not everybody in town plays tennis, but the folks that play tennis are really passionate about playing tennis, especially at that site. So, you know, those are conversations we're going to have in the future. And, you know, do we act upon the greater community or for a specific group of individuals that are passionate about tennis playing? So,
and I agree.
Those are council decisions that will have to be made.
Oh, thanks. No, I mean, I agree that, you know, it's a balancing act to keep, you know, whether it's basketball courts, a softball diamond, tennis, pickleball, and, you know, those decisions have to be made. I'm sure that there's been some grief over the, you know, the creation of more and more pickleball courts, but that seems to be the hot item these days. And I guess, you know, those decisions were made based on, you know, the greater good.
Yes, and look, the bottom line is that we're going to try to find a project that works for LAUSD and works for the council. And that may mean making some adjustments to the courts or to the handball court, you know, maybe even parking spaces. Those are all things that will have to be talked about in detail, and we'll have to overcome those things. But at the end of the day, the council will make those policy decisions and the staff will implement as directed.
Right. And that's where I'm willing to spend money on, you know, design consultants or whomever we would be using to take any ideas that either the council or staff has and can translate into, well, this is what that will look like.
Yes, very much so. I think that would be very helpful.
Well, I'm encouraged. I mean, my opinion, for the record, is that we've been providing a swimming pool amenity for our community for well over 60 years. And I would want to exhaust every avenue to make sure that we could continue to offer that amenity. And I've never put my toe in that pool. So.
Thank you for that. Councilmember Vera Papa, do you have any remaining questions or comments?
No, thank you.
All right. Well, again, this is a first meeting. We just wanted to provide you with a brief overview. The real work is in those small discussion groups that we're going to have with LAUSD and perhaps, you know, some design consultants coming down the pipe. But so we'll be reaching out to our counterparts at the LAUSD to begin discussions and again determine the viability of building the pool at McGaw. As we begin to learn more about some of the details, we'll schedule additional ad hoc meetings and discuss with you and hopefully make some strides in coming closer to getting a new pool in Seal Beach. And again, thank you again for all of the team members who spoke today. And again, thank you, Mayor and Councilmember Vera Papa for your time. And that's it from our end. Hope everybody has a great evening.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Patrick. Iris, Kelly. Bye-bye.